I was driving home from my buddy Kyle's place in rural Minnesota. One of those backwoods homes where the nearest neighbor is more deer than human. He'd just bought a fixer-upper out in the country, and I helped him set up his router and network for the weekend. But I had work in the morning, Monday, and calling off wasn't an option unless I wanted to spend the next month explaining it to HR. So I kept driving, cutting through vast, empty stretches of farmland, nothing around me but fields and pitch-dark sky. Just rows and rows of frozen cornfields, fenced in by tree lines that looked like rows of teeth in my headlights. The road was dead quiet. I didn't pass a single car going either direction for a solid 20 minutes. I had some low-volume indie rock playing, nothing too intense, just enough to keep me conscious. My eyes were fighting to stay open. I'd blink and realize I'd been staring at the center line like a zombie. And then, suddenly, something popped into view in the beams of my headlights. I hit the brakes hard, too hard. The seatbelt caught me across the chest. Right there, dead center in the lane, was a suitcase. A big one, like the kind people take on week-long flights overseas. It was upright, zipped up, and just sitting there like someone had placed it intentionally. I sat there, engine idling, staring at it for longer than I should have. My brain was slow from the fatigue trying to process it. I didn't want to get out, not because I was scared, at least that's what I told myself, but because I was tired and I didn't care enough to play road crew for someone's dropped luggage. So I turned into the oncoming lane, eased around it, and kept driving. A part of me thought about reporting it, maybe calling the sheriff's office in case it belonged to someone, but I didn't. Honestly, I forgot about it almost instantly. I was just relieved to have something jolt me awake, but 5 minutes later, it happened again. Something in the road. This time, it wasn't a suitcase, it was a truck. Parked diagonally across the lane with its lights off. A dusty old Ford F-150, dark blue, probably late 90s model. I barely saw it in time. My high beams caught its rear bumper and I slammed on the brakes again, this time stopping a good 20 feet back. The thing was completely dead. No hazards, no taillights, no sign of life inside. I honked once, waited, nothing. Honked again, still nothing. No movement behind the tinted glass. No silhouette shifting in the driver's seat. It looked abandoned. But something about the way it was sitting there, it didn't look like it had just broken down. It looked staged, like someone had deliberately parked it that way. I decided to go around, just like I did with the suitcase. As I crept past, I noticed the truck had large scrapes and dents on the side, as if it had been in an accident, or maybe someone had tried to smash it in with a bat. But more than that, I noticed what wasn't there. No driver, no passenger. Not even junk tossed in the back seat like you'd expect in a truck this old. Just nothing. And we were in the middle of nowhere. No houses for miles. No gas stations. No driveways. Just open farmland on both sides. I remember feeling this strange cold in my stomach. Like my gut was trying to tell me something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. I accelerated. Not fast. Just enough to get away from that truck. I told myself it was probably abandoned. Maybe stolen and dumped. Or maybe the guy ran out of gas and walked to the nearest town. But then why leave it parked in the middle of the road? Why not pull over to the shoulder? 5 minutes later, I had my answer, or part of it. A man appeared in the road, just standing there, in my lane, waving both arms. I slowed down, hard. He looked to be in his 40s, maybe older. Stringy, unwashed hair, hoodie half zipped over a dirty undershirt. Jeans that looked soaked up to the knees. His hands were scraped and bruised. As soon as I stopped, he smiled and started walking toward my window. Not in a rush. Calm, like he knew I wasn't going anywhere. "Hey," he said, leaning slightly. "You see a blue truck back that way?" I nodded, not rolling down the window all the way. "Yeah, it's sitting in the middle of the road." "That's mine, ran out of gas. Think you could give me a lift back to it?" Something in his tone was off, like he wasn't really asking, like he was just waiting for me to unlock the doors. I asked him why he left it there, and what he was doing walking out here in the middle of the night. His story stumbled. He said he was trying to get to a gas station, couldn't remember where it was though. And that's when I realized something didn't add up. If he was walking to a gas station, why would he want me to take him back to the truck? Shouldn't he be asking me for a ride to the gas station instead? As I hesitated, his voice picked up, trying to keep my focus. But I wasn't listening anymore. Because behind him, just barely visible in the moonlight and the glow from my high beams, I saw something tucked into the cornfield, the reflective curve of a taillight. A smaller car, parked halfway into the crops, like someone tried to hide it. My pulse kicked up. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it wasn't good. I rolled the window up. The man's smile dropped, his eyes widened, and then he started pounding on the glass. Yelling, I hit the gas, swerved around him, and tore down the road. He disappeared in the rear view, swallowed by the dark. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone. I called the sheriff's department and told them everything. About the suitcase, the truck, the man in the road. By the time deputies arrived, the truck was gone, but the car in the cornfield wasn't. Inside was a body, not a crash, not natural causes. It was a man, early 30s, slumped over in the passenger seat, throat cut open. They think he picked up a hitchhiker, probably the same guy I saw. The working theory was that the suitcase and the truck were planted there to force someone to stop, to make them vulnerable. The man in the road, he wasn't out of gas, he was hunting. I think about that night a lot, about how close I came to unlocking the door, about how easily I could have been the one slumped in that car, hidden in the corn. The guy was never caught, never identified, just a face in the night and a smile that turned to rage. And a suitcase in the road, waiting for the next person, too tired, too kind, or too curious for their own good. Some nights haunt you because of what almost happened, others because of what you never saw coming. After what I went through on that pitch-black country road with the suitcase and that man in the cornfield, I didn't sleep right for weeks. Every night I'd wake up at 2 a.m., heart pounding like a jackhammer, eyes darting toward the window, convinced someone was out there watching. And maybe it sounds strange, but what disturbed me most wasn't the dead body or the near escape. It was that man's expression the moment I rolled up my window. Like I'd ruined something for him, like I'd broken the script. That moment sat with me like a splinter under the skin. I needed distance, a reset. So, 2 weeks later, I called up a friend of mine, Howard Miller. Howard's a trucker, the real deal, 41, built like a brick wall, but with the calm, patient energy of someone who spent too many nights alone on the road, with only his thoughts and late-night AM radio to keep him company. He doesn't scare easy, so when I told him what happened, I thought he'd laugh, maybe poke fun, maybe call me paranoid. He didn't. He just got quiet, told me he'd seen something. Not the same, but something. And this is what he told me. He was hauling a load of palletized pet food from North Dakota to Colorado. Nothing special. The route was boring but familiar, mostly highway driving. The snow had started to fall pretty steadily around 10 p.m., but it was manageable. By 11, he was feeling the usual road fatigue creeping in, so he decided to pull into a small truck stop off exit 47. Nothing fancy, just a squat brick building with flickering neon signage and a few cracked pumps, a place you'd drive past in the daylight without thinking twice. He parked on the far end of the lot, closer to the edge of the woods, where there was more space for a big rig, and walked inside to grab coffee. He said the moment he stepped back outside, he felt it, that low primal awareness that something's not quite right. The air was too still, too silent. He looked around. The lot was mostly empty. Maybe 2 other trucks were idling near the entrance, but down where he parked, it was just him. Then he saw it. A man, standing at the back of the building, not moving, just leaning against the wall near the dumpster, partially hidden in the shadows. Howard couldn't make out his face, but he was certain the guy was staring directly at him. At first, he figured maybe it was another trucker on a smoke break, but there was no glowing cigarette, no movement, just stillness, the kind that makes your skin crawl. He didn't say anything, just climbed back into the cab, locked the doors, sipped his coffee, and tried to shake it off. He sat there for a few minutes, watching. Every time he glanced up, the guy was still there, staring, not blinking. Eventually, Howard turned the key, put the truck in gear, and pulled out. Snow was coming down harder now, blanketing the road in a thin layer of white. He merged back onto the highway and drove. He told me that for a while he forgot about the man. The coffee helped, the focus on slick roads helped even more. But then, about half an hour later, something flickered in his driver's side mirror. Just a flash, like light bouncing off chrome. He checked again, nothing, just snow, road, darkness. Still, something about that glint got under his skin. He started watching his mirrors more than usual. 10 minutes later, another flicker, this time on the passenger side. He eased off the gas and looked carefully. That's when he saw it. A car, tucked so close behind his trailer it was practically kissing the bumper. Headlights off, no visible license plate, just the vague silhouette of a sedan, dark and silent, tailing him like a shadow. Howard's not easily rattled, but he said this felt different. Wrong. Dangerous. He moved into the left lane, so did the car. He switched back, so did the car. No attempt to pass, no flicker of lights, just persistent mimicry. After a while, the car finally slowed and disappeared from the mirrors. He figured maybe he scared them off. Maybe it was just some kid trying to be funny. But something in his gut told him it wasn't over. He drove another hour before deciding he needed sleep. It was around 2:30 a.m. when he pulled into a rest area. Not a full-service stop, just a cutout off the side of the highway with enough room for a couple rigs and a trash bin overflowing with fast food bags and coffee cups. No lights, no buildings, just dark trees lining the edge like sentinels. He backed into a spot, cut the engine, reclined the seat, and closed his eyes. He didn't expect to sleep long, maybe 2 hours, just enough to recharge. But something woke him. A sound? A shift in pressure? He couldn't say. He opened his eyes slowly. The cab was still dark, save for the faint amber glow of the highway light bleeding in through the windshield. He lay still, listening. That's when he saw the eyes, right outside the driver's side window. Wide, unblinking, too close. The face they belonged to was pale, with thin lips parted just slightly, like he was trying to see inside, trying to read Howard's expression. The man didn't move, didn't speak, just stared, his breath fogging the glass. Howard jolted upright, fumbling for the door lock, but it was already engaged. The man tried the handle anyway. Click, click, then again, then harder. The whole truck rocked slightly. Howard grabbed his radio mic and barked out a call, broadcasting over the emergency channel. The man stopped, backed up, and then, from his side mirror, Howard saw it. The same car, pulling out from behind his trailer. No headlights, no license plate. Just like before, it rolled slowly out of sight, like it had been waiting. The man outside the window sprinted toward it, disappearing into the snow. By the time state troopers arrived 20 minutes later, the rest stop was empty. No car, no man, just Howard, shaking behind the wheel, shotgun in lap. They took his statement, checked the area. Nothing. No footprints, no tire tracks. Snow had covered everything. When Howard finished telling me the story, he leaned back in the diner booth we were sitting in, his fingers tapping the side of his coffee mug. I've been driving long haul for almost 15 years, he said. You see all kinds of crazy crap out there. But this felt like someone was planning something. Like I was part of something bigger I never saw. Like he wasn't just some nut job following me. He was hunting me. And I don't think I was the first. I didn't say anything. I just stared down at my coffee, remembering that man's eyes outside my own window not long ago. And suddenly, I knew that whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not for Howard. Not for me. Maybe not for you either. Because somewhere out there, beyond exit 47, someone's still watching, still waiting. And if you ever see a face in the dark, staring in through your window, don't roll it down, not even a crack. After hearing Howard's story, I stopped thinking my experience was just a one-off. Something about the way he described those eyes at the window, the silence of that car following him, how it vanished into the dark like a ghost slipping out of a nightmare. It brought back everything I'd tried to forget. The suitcase, the man in the road, the body in the cornfield. It was all too familiar, too calculated, like someone, or something, out there was playing a long game, using the quietest corners of America as their hunting ground. What chilled me more was the timing. I looked it up after I got home. Howard's incident happened just 10 days before mine. Different state, different setup, but the same emptiness, the same hour, the same sense of being watched. We weren't the only ones, I was sure of that, and it turns out I was right. Because a week after Howard told me his story, I came across a local news article that never made it past regional coverage. A high school senior named Brandon Torres had gone missing during a pizza delivery in the outskirts of Redding, California. He was 17. His car was never found. No suspects, no witnesses, just another teen who vanished into the woods one ordinary night. But there was something in the police report that made my skin crawl. The last confirmed location of his phone was at a rural address that turned out to be a home where no one had ordered pizza. Sound familiar? I managed to find his older sister through a Reddit thread. Her name was Marissa, and she was desperate for people to keep his case alive. She agreed to talk. What she told me, I'm going to try to recount it the way she did, so here it is. Brandon's story, from the pieces she had to stitch together through police notes, GPS records, and what little she knew from his last call. Brandon had started delivering pizzas a few months earlier, just saving up for his first car and some college stuff. He was one of those kids that didn't complain, didn't mind working a little late, even on school nights. It was a Thursday, cold, clear skies, no holidays coming up. He clocked in around 5 p.m. and stayed until closing. Things were slow. Around 9:15 an online order came through, 2 medium pepperoni pizzas prepaid with a $10 tip. The address was a private residence way out in the Forest Lane neighborhoods north of town. No street lights, no sidewalks, just long gravel driveways and mailboxes that looked like they hadn't been checked in a week. Brandon packed the pizzas, logged the drop into the system, and headed out in the old Camry his parents had loaned him until he could afford his own. Marissa said she remembered hearing him shout goodbye and that he'd be home after the last run. She never saw him again. According to the GPS data, Brandon drove the speed limit the whole way. He was 5 minutes into the neighborhood when a car pulled out from a side road and settled right behind him. It didn't try to pass, just lingered. Close. Too close. But Brandon didn't think much of it. There was only one road through the area, and it wasn't unusual for someone to be heading the same way. The odd part was when he pulled into the driveway of the delivery address, the car kept going. But not far. It passed the house, then circled back slowly, turning off its headlights as it eased to a stop behind his car, completely blocking the driveway. Now, this part isn't from GPS or logs. It's from Marissa. She said Brandon called her, casually at first, asking if it was weird that someone parked behind him. She thought he was joking. She asked if it was the homeowner. He said no. The woman who answered the door looked surprised and said she didn't order anything. He sounded confused, not scared, just thrown off. But then she heard a shift in his voice, a pause, and he whispered, "They're just sitting there, lights off. I can see their exhaust." She asked him what he was going to do. He said, "I'm just gonna turn around and head out. They'll have to move." That was the last thing she heard before the call dropped. The investigation found tire tracks suggesting he tried to reverse, then turn around in the narrow space near the house. But something went wrong. The car veered slightly off the gravel and slammed into a small pine tree. Nothing major, no airbags deployed. But it left a deep dent in the front bumper. The driver's side door was open when the police arrived. No signs of Brandon, no blood, no struggle. Just an open car door, an empty front seat, and the 2 pizzas sitting untouched on the passenger side. What's worse is what a neighbor told the cops. An old man living about 200 yards away said he heard footsteps running through the woods behind his property around 9:45. He went out with a flashlight, but didn't see anything. And he didn't call it in, thought it was kids messing around. No cameras, no license plates, no suspects. Just a quiet disappearance that looked like it had been designed down to the minute. Marissa told me the part that stuck with her most was how normal everything had been. The order wasn't suspicious, the neighborhood wasn't abandoned, the house was real. The woman inside was just as surprised as Brandon, but someone had planned it. Someone used that order to bring him to a place they controlled. Someone waited. I don't know what happened to Brandon Torres, but I believe he was stalked. Just like Howard. Just like me. 3 different states, 3 different setups, but the same eerie patterns: remote roads, isolated stops, men watching from the dark, vehicles that vanish without a trace, and faces you don't recognize until it's too late. If you're watching this and you think it can't happen to you, let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Monsters don't need masks. They don't hide under beds or in closets. They hide in plain sight, behind the wheel of a dark sedan, in a pair of eyes pressed against your window, or at the end of a gravel driveway, waiting for you to knock on the wrong door. They wait where the road gets quiet, where your signal drops, where headlights don't reach, and when they move fast. So next time you're driving alone at night and the road feels just a little too empty, ask yourself, who else is out there, waiting for you to stop? Because sometimes you don't get to leave the way you came. When I first heard stories like these, tales of vanished deliveries, eyes staring through glass at 2:30 in the morning, or a suitcase waiting like bait in the middle of nowhere, I thought they were just that, stories. Urban legends born from late-night paranoia and highway exhaustion. But then I lived one, and then I heard another, and another, all from different people in different states, with no connection other than the empty stretches of American road they happened on. That's when I knew there was a pattern. What links these stories isn't just fear, it's silence. The moments when we convince ourselves not to overreact, not to call someone, not to make a scene. Elliot didn't report the suitcase. Howard didn't confront the man behind the building. Brandon thought it was just a weird coincidence. And really, who could blame them? Most of us don't want to believe that danger is watching us from the tree line or tailing us without headlights. We tell ourselves it's probably nothing. But sometimes, probably nothing is exactly what someone dangerous is counting on. If there's a lesson to be taken from the roadside veil, it's this: trust your instincts. That discomfort in your chest, that second glance in the mirror, that feeling that someone's watching. It's not paranoia, it's survival. Roll your window up, keep your doors locked. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Don't try to be polite in the face of uncertainty, because the people behind these setups, the ones planting fake deliveries, watching from abandoned rest stops, or walking the road with a lie on their lips, they rely on your hesitation. They rely on your kindness. They rely on you not wanting to make a fuss. Don't give them what they want. To everyone who's listened this far, thank you. Enigma of the Unknown was built for you, the listeners and viewers who appreciate the shadows for what they are, not just empty space, but places where real stories hide. Every share, every like, every moment you spend here helps us keep telling these stories, and more importantly, it helps keep people aware, alert, and just a little more cautious the next time they take the long road home. Stay safe out there, stay sharp, and remember, the most terrifying evil doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it smiles, and sometimes it just stands there in the dark, waiting. Until next time, this is Enigma of the Unknown. Thank you for listening.